For you to live a purposeful life, you must understand your giftedness and your calling, your purpose. There is a God-given desire within each one of us to fulfill our purpose for living. And we know that the end goal of any transformational process is shalom. Every one of us was born and is called to be a leader. But gaining leadership potential does not happen automatically. It's not like, yes, I am a leader and I automatically begin to move in my leadership potential. We have to put in effort, intentional growth, because growing older in the physical is automatic. But growing in leadership, getting better in leadership isn't automatic. Your leadership influence is based on the foundation that you build, the foundation on which you build, the foundation you lay, and then the foundation on which you build your leadership. As John Maxwell says, as a leader, you must have knowledge. You must grow your knowledge. You must walk ahead of your people who you're leading, so that they see who you are, so that they know who you are and what you stand for, so that they are able to follow you. You must have the ability to influence, to show others how to get to where you are, because we assume that as a leader, you are ahead of those you're leading in knowledge, in skills, in ability. And so people are looking up to you. They are seeing the beautiful picture that you're portraying, and then they want to be where you are. One becomes a leader by submitting to a process, the process that enables identification of potential and enables you to deliberately step into being that which you were created to be. I hope we are being clear on that. So for today's session, we are looking at three things. We are looking at leadership. What is it? What is the character of a good leader? And then we are looking at growth of leadership character. How do you grow in your leadership? And then finally, we will look at giftedness of a leader. How are you gifted? And how will that giftedness help you in becoming a better leader? My question to you this morning is, are you a leader? And how do you know that you are a leader? So when you think of a leader, who or what is a leader? How would you define a leader? What other words would you use to describe a leader? What type of leader are you? Are you the king that bosses it over the people? Or are you the shepherd that nurtures, that works together with the people that are around you, that shares and distributes the credit? Remembering that where there is credit as a shepherd, you share that credit. But where there is criticism, where things have not gone right, you absorb the blame, you absorb the criticism, and you shield the people that you lead. Those are critical aspects of leadership. Leadership is about making a positive influence, making a difference in the spaces where God has positioned you, adding value to the people, influencing them positively, enabling them to also build their own ability to influence. You have to have the capacity to influence their actions, influence their behavior, influence their opinions, because you have to be an opinion leader. And this is all done through the example of yourself, as they see you, as they follow you. And we know that leaders don't need to have formal titles or positions. We normally see people jostling. I need to be called doctor. I need to be called pastor. I need to be called bishop. I need to be called sir or madam. It is the inner man that comes out and expresses itself in who you are, what you do, how you relate to people, how you speak, that gives you the leadership position. Because we know that those who are following you will observe, and they will follow you only when they are convinced from what they see in you. Therefore, influence is rooted in responsibility and integrity. We used the ability to influence decisions, the ability to trigger change, the ability to inspire and to motivate. How have you added value? How have you valued people and added value to them? How have you impacted individuals and influenced them? Yes, you've talked about influencing decision making. You've talked about causing change. You've talked about inspiration and motivation. For those you're working with, those that you have influenced, what kind of change have you seen in them? What kind of value have they picked from you? Let us take a look at the leadership helix. The foundation of good leadership has three major stones. There is character, there is commitment, and there is competence. When we look at competence, it reflects what a person can do and is influenced by their intellect, by their ability to think through and understand things. And then there is commitment. This one describes the degree of effort that someone puts into doing those things that they are expected to do. And it's affected by the level of aspiration, the degree of engagement, the extent to which a person is willing to sacrifice to reach their goal. As I speak these things, I want you to be looking inside of you and identifying your levels. How competent are you as a leader? How committed are you? And how about your character? Because we know that character espouses our virtues, our values, our traits. It influences our decision making, those choices that we make. And character influences the other two. It influences your commitment, and it influences your competence in any given situation. If any of these three foundational aspects is lacking in any way, it undermines the other two. And ultimately, it undermines your potential to lead, to perform well, to solve problems as an individual leader at your level. And consequently, if you're working within an organizational setting, any lack in these areas will impact the performance of your organization. We know that in our organizations, we normally focus on competence and commitment, even as we recruit, even as we evaluate performance. Very few organizations assess character development during the annual evaluations, and very few effectively check out your character as you come in. Yes, we ask for character references, but we know how people simply write in order to get you in. If you're recruiting people, you need to take a step further and delve deeper into character identification, because your character as a leader is critical in ensuring your survival and your flourishing. And not only your survival and flourishing, but the flourishing of those around you, of other individuals, and of the organization. What is character? Today we will focus on individuals' character rather than corporate character. It is identified within the mental and moral qualities that inform our distinctive behavioral choices. What is it that informs the choices that you make in your everyday living? Your character is reflected in self-imposed discipline that is aligned with your morals, your moral convictions. Our character informs and shapes our choices. It influences the decisions that we make. What we take note of in your surroundings, the things that easily capture your eyes, are also influenced by your character. Those things that you engage with, what you reinforce by giving rewards or punishments, it's because of your character. What we place value on, how we interpret and respond to feedback received, and many other aspects. They're all dependent on your character. The outward expression of your inner choices. What we see when we interact with you, when we look at you. Self-imposed discipline rooted in your moral convictions. Now, let's look at transformational leadership. There is leadership, but then there is transformational leadership. And this begins with self-awareness, self-reflection, self-determination, and self-transformation. Because you cannot lead others into a space that you yourself, you're not occupying. Otherwise, you are a signpost. You're saying, this is the way to go. This is the good way to go. But for you, you are here. If you're a transformational leader, you already occupy the good space of leadership. You're already a shepherd. And then people follow you. We don't inspire people simply to drink. We inspire them to be thirsty. We don't work on symptoms. We look at the inner man. When you inspire a thirst in those that are around you, then they will go ahead and drink. Rather than you saying, here is a drink, drink it. You have to work on the inner person and inspire them to thirst after their own values of leadership. So how do I persuade them? How do I inspire them to thirst? How do I understand what causes them to be thirsty? You need to know the people that you're interacting with very well, so that you know what is lacking, you know what they need to add on. And in addition, you know leadership potential, the characteristics of leadership that they need to be aspiring to. And so you help them to develop that thirst to want to be a good leader. Also by you being a good leader, that they will see the value in you and they will desire to be like you, and they will thirst after that which you have. For you to live a purposeful life, you must understand your giftedness and your calling, your purpose. There is a God-given desire within each one of us to fulfill our purpose for living. And we know that the end goal of any transformational process is shalom. You need to be working from a position of rest rather than resting from work. Many times we find ourselves desiring to rest from work. We are constantly feeling exhausted and ready to throw in the towel. We lack the excitement in who we are and motivation in what we are doing, what we are expected to deliver. When the situation with you is like that, it means you're not working from your place of rest, but you're desiring to rest from work. Why is it like that? It's because you have not identified who you are. You are not self-aware, and therefore you are not occupying the position that is tied within who you are. And so you struggle. Instead of operating from a place of rest, a place of well-being, you're struggling and sweating and trying to achieve against very many odds. So when we talk about shalom, let's look at biblical shalom. We've said that the end goal of transformation is shalom. And this is not just about peace. It's deeper than that. And there are 3 levels of shalom. There is shalom in people, shalom within you as a person, having a personal sense of shalom and connection with your true self. When we say personal sense of shalom, we are talking about you see yourself through God's eyes. How does God see you? Because we know we serve a loving God. He sees you with love. So that is critical for us as transformational leaders, having shalom in ourselves. And then there is shalom for people. And this is exemplified by human flourishing. Shalom for people describes how our material and physical circumstances ought to be. The beautiful picture of your physical surroundings, of your material surroundings, because God did not create us to lack. That's why He created the beautiful Garden of Eden and placed man in there, so that the material things that we have, the physical things surrounding us, are also beautiful. That is shalom for people. And then there is shalom between people, describing our social, political, and economic relationships, the type of relationships that people have between each other and people groups relating to each other. That brings shalom between people. So this is a stepwise movement along a transformational growth curve. You begin with shalom in you, because you cannot have shalom for you and shalom between people when you don't have shalom in you. So you begin by working on yourself, and then you work on your surroundings, and then you work to create relationships, good relationships between people and people groups. Everyone goes through growth seasons. We've just talked about the stepwise growth of shalom. But there are other seasons of growth that are all encompassing. We see them expressed in what we call the morning season. This is when God is equipping you, building your capacity, skilling you in a particular area, either through in-class training, experiential learning, and other methods. At that point in time, you have absolutely no idea who you're called to be. You're just absorbing skills. You're in school, you're learning, you're going into training, you're equipping. God is enabling you to pick up things that He will need you to use when you occupy the position that you're created to occupy. And then we have what we call the afternoon season, where God gives you an assignment that grows you, that matures you. He positions you in circumstances that can stretch you and harden you and give you wisdom and grow your inner strength. Then you're in your afternoon season. And then you reach what we call your evening season. This doesn't mean that you're dying off, no. It means that in this season, this beautiful season, God reveals your purpose. Because now you have a general knowledge, you have capacity, you're skilled, you have experiential learning, you're able to fulfill your purpose for being. We say then you're in your evening season. And then you go into your night season. This is you in your concluding phase, preparing to step off the stage. The time when you are no longer very active, but you focus on completing the nurturing. Because you don't start nurturing in your evening phase, you started nurturing in the afternoon phase or even before that. You're getting ready to pass on the baton. So you're passing on your knowledge, you're passing on your skills, you're passing on your abilities, you're equipping people. You're moving towards what Dr. Miles Monroe says, you die empty. By the time God calls you, you have really emptied yourself of all that He has put in you. So my question to you is, which season are you? I would like you to take a moment of reflection. Gaining knowledge and skills is a lifetime journey. It's not restricted to a certain season. When we say your morning season is when you gain knowledge and skills, this is talking about the kind of equipping you get from school, the kind of equipping you get from university, the kind of equipping that you get from looking around. You know, let's look at the life of a human being. Children, there is a certain stage that they absorb everything they see. If they see you eating like that, they also start eating like that. So even these seasons are structured like that, but at a bigger level. There is that season which you go through where you are gaining knowledge, you're understanding, you're looking, you're identifying. And then you continue doing that through the other seasons, but it's not as intense. There is also a peak kind of wave in knowledge and skills acquisition. There is a time you find yourself desiring to learn, desiring to be trained, desiring to know about things. You're reading books, you're watching videos, you're looking. And then there are times when you're just chilling. So life is in seasons, and we know that God also works in seasons. So the acquiring of knowledge, the gaining of skills is all through, but there is an intense phase where you gain a lot. And normally, somebody gets into their afternoon, their evening, gets into their evening later in life. It takes a lot of training, a lot of skilling, a lot of stretching before you're comfortable knowing that, yes, I am in my purpose. In my afternoon season, I kind of thought, yeah, I know my purpose. I know whom I am, but I actually didn't know. As I developed, as I trained, as I grew, I eventually landed into who I am by God's grace. So don't panic, don't stress if you're looking around and asking yourself, what is my purpose? Who am I called to be? It is a process. It is a journey. You don't suddenly in your 20s, 30s say, yes, this is who I am. You may begin to discover, but as life proceeds, you find that you're changing, you're maturing, you're actually moving closer and closer to identifying who you are. And being here and going through this is part of the identification, part of the discovery. Let's quickly look at giftedness. God has given each one of us a set of gifts that enable us to be who He created us to be. And as leaders, we need to know our giftedness so that we can develop and grow with intentionality and deliberateness to impact communities and nations. We are called to transform communities. We are called to transform nations. And in order to be able to do that, we must understand who we are. So what is a gift? When we look at giftedness in this context, we are looking at inherent capacity within you that helps you to fulfill certain functions, that helps you to delivering your purpose. Natural capacity and acquired skill. You have the divine ability, which is unique capacity of a believer for releasing the Holy Spirit empowered ministry. These are gifts that are not refinable or polishable. Their discovery flows out of ministry experience. They are supernatural expression of the Holy Spirit's working within you. Then we have what we call the natural capacity. These are inborn skills or talents which you can operate without supernatural intervention. They are within you. God already deposited them within you. You can improve upon them by human effort. We normally use them without really thinking about it, not acknowledging them, but we gradually get to realize their presence in our lives. I discovered my teaching gift about 8 years ago when I was leading a certain group of people, an intercessory group in my church setting. As we continued to interact, I discovered that actually I could teach them. And it was in that period that I also discovered my gift of word of knowledge, which is a divine, a supernatural gift. As we did our Bible study, I would find that as we read the verses of the Bible, I would get knowledge of what that scripture means, its interpretation. And I knew that was coming out purposefully to learn some skill that you need to be able to implement what you want to implement. One of these elements, we said these are elements, the three. We have three elements. One of them is normally dominant within you, and we call it the focal element. And one of the gifts that you have identified as we go through the journey, we will see which gift emerges atop, which one is dominant. We call it the dominant gift. It's more central in what you do, in who you are. And once you identify your dominant gift, then you're free to minister out of that gifting, out of that being, out of knowing who you are, knowing your gift set, and identifying your dominant gift frees you to minister in confidence and to be able to grow intentionally, because then you focus on that gift and you grow it. We know that in Uganda especially, I don't know about Lesotho, about Southern Africa, but our foundations here in Uganda are influenced by our education. For example, our education system does not really cater for effective leadership. We don't get our gifts identified and intentionally developed as we go through our education system, through the primary level, the secondary level, and the tertiary level. Our system does not go out of its way to help us refine our giftings. We take wrong courses because the system does not look out for who we are. We are motivated by circumstances rather than fulfillment. Many of us choose to study in areas based on our parents' wishes. Your parents say you have to be a doctor, you have to specialize in education. And we also look at prestige rather than possible service. We don't look at impact and fulfillment. We look at what the market is demanding. I remember in my school days, I excelled in English. I loved novels. I was very good at mathematics. But my A-levels at higher school certificate, I was given physics, chemistry, and biology. And I struggled through that. So the wrong choice of study can lead you to wrong positioning. I studied forestry, and so I went into conservation. It can lead you to a wrong positioning in the marketplace. To be an effective leader in the marketplace, you need to position yourself for service. And positioning yourself for service comes out of who you are. A proper utilization of your gifts and talents makes you serve your community better. Although our education system is not structured to nurture our gifts and talents or point us in the right direction, it is never too late for us to get there. That's why we are here, to look at ourselves and identify our giftings, identify the kind of positions we should occupy, the platforms that are available for us to express our giftings, and therefore correct whatever has gone wrong in our choices and realign with those choices that fit well within who we are. This is a quote from Buchner, that the world is full of people who seem to have listened to the wrong voice, like I did, and are now engaged in life work in which they find no pleasure, they find no purpose, and they run the risk of suddenly realizing that they have spent the only years that they are ever going to get in this world doing something which could not matter less to themselves or to anyone else. I don't want you to be in such a position where you reach the evening phase of your life and you're preparing to pass on the baton, and you suddenly realize you have no baton to pass on because you walked the wrong path your entire life. Giftings are like a toolbox. In the Bible, Paul tells us in Ephesians chapter 2, verse 10 that we are created for good works. And so we are tools in God's hands to be used to do good. But how do you tell which tool you are? There are many ways. You can tell through your ministry experience. When I talk about ministry, I'm not talking about preaching, evangelizing, and Bible study. Ministry is a word indicating service. You're a minister wherever you are, whether you're in your organization being the M&E, whether you are a pilot somewhere, whether you are doing business, you're a minister. So through your ministry experience, through trial and error, you can get to know your gifting. You could take a knife, take an example, and try to cut a tree with it. Yes, you can cut a tree with a knife, but it will take you years to bring that tree down. Or you can find out that actually if I get a panga and I cut, it is quicker. They can tell you, don't hammer your table don't hammer your table. Clean it with a cloth as you grow up as a child. And so you discover what you're good at. You get affirmation from the people around you telling you that actually you do this kind of thing very well. Actually you teach well. Actually you explain things well. Actually you love children. Affirmation. Confirmation by others as you repeatedly use your gifts and they see you doing it. And then there is personality. What you love to do. What you enjoy doing. What you do very well and you feel it within you that yes, I enjoy this and I do it well. These three can point you to to your giftedness and who you are. I love to organize. I love to bring discipline. I love to guide. I love to lead. So I find myself leading even when I'm not called to lead. I just find myself getting there. So you will find it within you. You'll find yourself pushing yourself into areas that you're gifted in. So I would like to conclude my talking to you here. And I would like to ask if you have any question. Is there anything that was not clear? Is there an experience you would want to share that we skipped? Talking about your own journey, is there anything you desire to share? Is there an experience you would like to bring out? Is there a need for clarity in any of the aspects that we've covered today? Let's look at that now. And thank you very much for listening to me.
The Transformational Leadership Fireplace, an interactive discourse covering various topics aimed at equipping leaders with knowledge, information, and tips to help them work effectively in their leadership journeys. Join us every last Sunday of the month as Dr. Apofia Atkunda takes us through on Zoom and YouTube channel at Maximizing Your Potential, Grow and Glow.